What's up, you guys? We're back with another one. You might be wondering, dude, is that paint in the bottom corner of your screen? And yeah, you're right. I have a huge canvas on the floor right now in the back of my Zoom video because I'm painting a big logo on a canvas. It's going to go right up here. It's going to look cool. So, anyways, this video, I want to talk about something, again, fresh off a community live call, a real topic from the trenches with people who have paid to be in my community, who are currently going through the iterations of what it takes to get into this industry, into a good role. And this is a real, not problem, but just like situation that people are facing. So, not sure of the title of this video, but what I want to get into is basically how you perceive what you've done and how that determines where you land when you get into this industry. Because my day job is working with salespeople to go from usually one sales industry to another. But sometimes these people are not salespeople and they want to be salespeople. And so I work with people that are coming from all different backgrounds with all different preferences, limitations, and experiences, and all the above. Every situation is unique. And that's why I think we're really good at what we do, is because we give them a unique solution. Now, I was just on a call with a few members, all coming from different backgrounds, some of them sales, some of them not sales, and some of them are in the process of finding their next role. And the topic came up of like delusional self-belief and how having that delusional self-belief is truly the difference between you going into your dream role versus not your dream role. Yes, some of these roles are going to require you to have a certain amount of experience in a certain niche or whatever, but some of these are a little bit more open for interpretation than you would originally think. So I want you to imagine two realities and think of your current situation right now. Like, think back, if you're trying to get into the high ticket space or you're trying to get your next high ticket role, think back at your current experience right now and think like, okay, with my experience, realistically, given everything I know about this space and what other people are doing and what kind of jobs other people want, where would I realistically land with the experience that I have based on, just standard positioning? You might say appointment setting, you might say closing, you might say it could be a mix of both. I'm going to give you guys a hypothetical situation so I can make this more real. Let's say you have a background of doing a little bit of door-to-door sales. Like, you've done a summer or two. You're not like super like OG sales rep yet. Like, your numbers aren't going to get you hired alone, but you have done some sales. That's who you are in this scenario. There's a version of you out there that thinks, you know what, man, I have done a couple summers door to door. I feel confident in my ability. I don't really have crazy numbers to share, but I'm a self-driven guy. I'm motivated. I don't know. Like, I feel like appointment setting is the next step for me. Like, I'm not sure closing is really up my alley or that I'd be qualified to close. And so I'm going to go for appointment setting. So there's that version, which is kind of the safe version. The same exact person, the same exact experience, door to door, 2 summers, selling solar. But there's another version that firmly believes that they should be a closer. Same exact experience, 2 summers, selling solar, some numbers, not a crazy amount. And I am making this video to share the idea that both of those versions of yourself, whichever one you truly believe, is correct. Because I'm thinking back to some community member experiences here. I've seen people come in with a fair amount of sales experience that are like, hey, I don't really know this industry. I want to go into setting. And that's where they land. And then I see people come in with like some sales experience, but they shine in other areas, like their personality, their work ethic, their conviction in themselves and their ability. And with less sales experience than the previous person, they go straight into closing. And it's not a perfect formula or calculation on like, okay, you've done this, so you should go there. Sometimes it's more clear one way or another, but your ability to have the belief in yourself to get into a role and get the result can really sway the decision on you getting hired into one role over another. I always tell people this in my community. We go through this process of nailing down like where they should probably go based on all the criteria of what they submit to us, and how you should probably make that transition given you have this bill or this financial responsibility, you got this scheduling thing that you can't move, but this one you can move. Like, there's so many components, but we usually nail down like the best path of action for them, so they're not just floating around like unsure of what to apply to. And then what I've seen the people do who get the best results time and time again is when it's time to go out and submit applications and do like a scaled applicant process, they narrow down on that role, but then they like broaden the target by like 10% on either side. And the reason I suggest people to do this and the reason people have success doing this is because you would be really surprised by how many of these companies are more so interested in hiring the right person versus the right job applicant. Meaning, you might not have the full availability that they want, but you're still going to apply because the worst case scenario, you're already living it. You're not working that job, right? um, a little dramatic, but you apply. It's a little bit outside of your reach. You apply, you somehow get an interview, and then boom, you start talking to them, and they're like, "You're the best person we've spoke to. We're willing to be flexible on the schedule, the pay, the onboarding, the ascension from this role into the next." So that's something I'd like to point out. Like, I'd much rather you guys take a semi shotgun approach on the applications and then narrow down. Like, get to the point where they extend an offer and you say no versus never having the offer to begin with. Because there's power in knowing that you can get these offers and tell them no. And that internally tells you, you know what? I am the guy that turned down that offer. I am the guy that got the offer in the first place. I'm confident in my ability to get another one. Versus the guy who applies to like 5 jobs over the course of 2 weeks and gets, a much lower outcome out of that. You're not going to have the same confidence and conviction in your ability to get hired and find work in that scenario. So the delusional self-belief is truly a difference maker in swaying the likelihood of you landing in the role that you want. So delusional self-belief, there's like, in my mind, there's 2 variations of it. There's the one that you actually are delusional, and anyone who tells you otherwise, you think they're wrong and stupid, and it might piss you off. There's another form of delusional self-belief where it's like, I'm swinging for the fences. I know I'm delusional, and I know that the chances of me getting the outcome that I want rely on me being as delusional as possible, and I'm going to lean into that. I would just say the latter, the person that knows they're delusional, is usually going to do a little bit better because they're just a little bit more aware of the situation. The former is maybe more stubborn, maybe harder to get along with, but those people ultimately are going to end up in a more desirable role than if they weren't delusional. Now, I'm not saying if you have a lot of sales experience, you shouldn't be an appointment setter. That's not what I'm saying. That is sometimes the best course of action for people depending on their situation. But I do work with people alternatively from the delusional self-belief. I work with people that have this like almost like a disbelief in themselves, or like they're always trying to like discredit what they've done. It's like, yeah, I did close 7 figures here, but it's not high ticket. And that mindset right there will keep you held back for a really, really, really long time. I was talking to someone recently. She comes from a fine dining experience, been, I think, a high up manager, general manager, maybe for 6 years at this restaurant. She's like, originally, she was like, yeah, I've just been working I've been working in service. Like, I don't have sales experience. And we get into it and it's like, no, this is like very relevant experience. Like, you have numbers, you've sold this much of private stuff, and the performance of the establishment altogether went up. Like, you made an impact. And so like that same experience, depending on the lens that you look at it through, is going to create a lot of opportunity, or is going to create not that much opportunity. For those of you watching this that come from a retail, customer service, restaurant background, that experience is relevant. That is almost as good as sales experience. It's basically the next best thing. And if you have that, you do have an advantage, because a lot of people that work in this industry, they have previously worked in that industry, or they have previously hired people from the service industry, and they know that it's hard, and they know that being customer facing in a fast-paced environment, managing expectations, is basically what sales is. So yes, that counts. Bar in the high ticket industry is so ridiculously low, and that's why in my community, one of the things we focus on is all the stuff that comes before the sales training. Sales training is important, it is, but sales training doesn't get you hired. And the low-hanging fruit, things like Loom videos, resumes, the way you're messaging when applications are sent, when you're messaging, how fast you're messaging. Like, if you can just optimize for 5-10% better than the average person on all of those, the throughput of what comes out of the bottom of that application funnel is going to be much more significant than if you don't have a good resume, you apply to these jobs late, you don't know how to film a Loom video. And this even converts over to one step further, which is not you start as an appointment setter or closer, but it is like, do you start in a good closing role, or do you start in an okay closing role? Again, I've seen people do both of those. I've seen people start in a better closing role with less sales experience. I've seen people start in an okay one or a not so okay one with a lot of experience. So, part of this vetting process is you doing due diligence on these roles, which is completely like an effort, skill-based thing. You don't need to work a certain job for however many years to be able to do due diligence, at least the way that we teach it. But you just have to be aware, man. And I think a combination of awareness plus delusional self-belief and you being aware that you are delusional and that is good is what gets you into the best of the best opportunity given what you're coming into this with. If you can be aware of where you exist in the marketplace, if you can be aware of the caliber of opportunity that you're applying to, if you can be aware of the other people who are probably applying to that and aware of their backgrounds and make decisions based on that, and put and place weight on these opportunities based on all of that criteria, then you're probably just going to have a better time. So be aware, be delusional in yourself, be aware that you're delusional in yourself, and let it rip. You got nothing to lose. Your situation, again, not to be dramatic, you are in the worst case scenario situation. If you want to be in high ticket sales and you are not in high ticket sales, that is your worst case scenario situation. Okay, so like you're already on the ground. The worst they can say is no. Now, I want to keep this video pretty brief. If you are interested in getting help with that process of becoming on paper the absolute best applicant and working with me in small group or one-on-one settings, becoming the best applicant on paper or working with me in one-on-one or small group settings, that's what we do in my community. I know it's called the serial sales community. There is a community element, but there is also a very strict service that every single member goes through, before we green light them to send applications. Our main thing is to make sure that when you start sending applications, you have the absolute highest hit rate you can with interviews and job offers. The best thing that we can offer inside the community is not information. It's accountability and access. Accountability to do what you need to do and access to people like me and other people in the community that can show you exactly what needs to be done. When we're looking at making $5, $10, $15, $20,000 per month, the accountability and access or not having that can tally up pretty quick to be a pretty significant number. And we've been doing this for 3 years now. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people to do this. We post the most jobs in the industry, and we have a wins channel that does not quit. We got Noah with 36K cash collected week. That's 3.6K. We got Aaron hitting another 10K month. And we got Daven with a 200K cash collected month at 10% commission. That's a 20K month. He's been doing that for almost 2 years. Not 20K, but he's been in the community doing pretty well. Look, man, there's a lot of riffraff in this space, and I love it because, me, I've personally been on the receiving end of like courses, communities, coaching programs, services. And when you find someone that you can resonate with because of either their personality, their beliefs, the way they do things, and how they prioritize things, it can be worth its weight in gold. And what we do is not for everybody. There's people out there that have much bigger programs, audiences, much more pull in the algorithm, maybe because they're like 16-year-old remote closers or whatever. But man, we've been doing it for 3 years, and a lot of the people that were doing it when we started are no longer doing it because they make crazy promises, ones they can't keep. Their name gets trashed, and you only got one name, man. I put my first and last name on this. I blast it all over the internet, and we do the best we can for our people. If you are interested in working with us on that, going through that process and just getting access to a ton of job opportunities and being the best applicant you possibly can be, if you want us to help you manufacture that delusional self-belief and help you instill the awareness of the marketplace and how you exist within it, go down to the first link in the description. And if you don't do that, at least I hope you learned something from this video you can take away and implement by yourself. That's all for this video. Sunday's video. We got a good one coming to you. See you then.